Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 9th day of May 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got the breakup map, or the hazardous weather graphic. Breakup map, there we go. And you can see some unknown ice areas there along the for the Susitna River and then western Cook Inlet there. Otherwise, starting some open areas there on the area of the Yukon River from upstream of Eagle down to the or a little ways up the stream there, and then back to mostly ice. Of course, Porcupine and the Koyukuk, Kobuk rivers and the North Slope all still pretty solid, and continuing to break up there along the Kuskokwim River slowly. There's no longer a flood watch out for the Kuskokwim Delta. Moving on to the hazardous weather graphic, a still a flood watch out through tomorrow for the Eagle area, Yukon River at Eagle, for possible ice jam flooding. Just a possibility at this point, some higher water. And that's it for watches, warnings, and advisories around the state. No big storms affecting the area at all, nothing even close. On the satellite imagery, you can see some moisture, though, with a frontal boundary rolling up across the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, affecting the southwest coast there up to about Nunivak Island, and then back out over the Bering Sea. Some light precipitation, about 1/10 of an inch falling over the Pribilof Islands in the last 12 hours. There at the low center, just to the actually a couple of low centers. One looks like it's there near the Alaska Peninsula, western Alaska Peninsula, another one north of the Adak-Atka area. And so southeast flow bringing the moisture up. Heaviest precipitation again occurred along the, a little farther east than yesterday, but it occurred along the Alaska Peninsula on the upslope area there, the Pacific side, and on up toward Cape Newenham. Also strongest winds recorded there. Cape Newenham seeing a peak gust of from the southeast at 52 miles an hour with about 4/10 of an inch of precipitation. And rain starting to increase there. Kodiak Island, first the clouds, then the rain, about 4/100 of an inch or 5/100 of an inch now falling at Akiak. Nothing at Kodiak State Airport, at least through 3 p.m. And clouds and showers to the North Gulf Coast with a trough that extends into the Panhandle. About 1/10 of an inch fell, Alyeska to Cordova, Yakutat, and anywhere from nothing over the Panhandle to as much as 3/10 of an inch in the Juneau area. You can see some clearing though and sunshine. Allowed temperatures to warm in well into the 60s over the central eastern interior today. And actually at 3 p.m. this afternoon, temperatures range from 18 degrees at Barrow to, let's see, it was 66 degrees at Salsha there, east of Fairbanks. Fairbanks into the lower to mid 60s as well this afternoon. And lower 60s in the Copper River Basin, sunshine, and warmer temperatures starting to trip off some shower activity over the mountainous terrain, but pretty light and scattered, at least up until the last time I looked. A little more extensive clouds and shower activity along the North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle with that trough, and then the front bringing some rain and the gusty winds, 30-35 miles an hour in gusts across Bristol Bay and at least the central southern Kuskokwim Delta, and better conditions over the Yukon Delta. And the interior, maybe some isolated showers along that trough axis on the lower to mid Yukon River area there out along the Seward Peninsula, but amounts were pretty light where they did hit. High pressure western Bering Sea, a lot of clouds out there, low clouds covering the area with the light wind conditions. And a little breezy, but not too bad on the Arctic coast. A lot lighter than they were a couple of days ago on the east side. Looking at the forecast for tonight, that front continues. It brings a band of light rain in areas from Kodiak Island up along the southwest coast. Pushing inland, could get some light rain into the southern Kuskokwim Valley, Yukon or Kuskokwim Delta. Maybe the southern part of the Yukon Delta should stay south of St. Lawrence Island. Stays showery for the Pribilof. Cloudy, areas of light rain at times, light winds. Same pattern there for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. Scattered showers, central Aleutians. And the Panhandle looking at decreasing showers with the trough moving through and dissipating, and weak high pressure kind of builds in behind it, and already starting to shift off by late tonight, and isolated showers to the North Gulf Coast. For Monday, periods of rain with the front pushing into the Panhandle, mostly cloudy showers southern Alaska, variably cloudy, then isolated showers central interior. Dry to the north with a fair amount of sunshine, unsettled over the Bering Sea, but not too bad for the Aleutians. Outlook for Tuesday, next front brings rain into the far western Aleutians, spreading, trying to reach Adak by late in the day. Showers and clouds, southern part of the state, northern half, not too bad, although the area the eastern north slope and Arctic coast, chance of light snow showers. More showers for the Panhandle, Kodiak Island, the North Gulf Coast. Lows for tonight in the 40s for the Panhandle, upper 30s to lower 40s, southern Alaska, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, and 35 to 40 for the central interior, 20s Brooks Range, teens for the Arctic coast, lower 30s for the northern Bering Sea, mid to upper 30s for the southern Bering Sea. Highs for tomorrow, 55 to 65 here for the south central Alaska area, northern Kuskokwim Valley, Copper River Basin. 50s lower to mid for the Panhandle, mid 40s Kodiak Island, near 50 Bristol Bay, and back into the 60s at the eastern interior area, central and eastern interior, with highs in the 20 to 25 degree range for the Arctic coast, but up to 35 toward Point Lay, upper 30s to upper 40s for the Seward Peninsula, and 40s in the Bering Sea and Alaska Peninsula. Lows for Tuesday morning, mid 30s, or 35 to 40 southern Alaska, call it, lower 40s for the Panhandle, near 40 Kodiak Island, and lower teens for the Arctic coast, and 20s for the North Slope Brooks Range, 35 to 43 for the interior, lower 30s northern Bering Sea, mid to upper 30s Pribilofs and the Aleutians, to near 40 over the Alaska Peninsula. Highs Tuesday afternoon, again 55 to lower 50s, lower 60s southern Alaska there, lower to mid 50s Bristol Bay, and lower 50s for the Panhandle. Interior a little cooler with some clouds and showers moving in, but still should reach into the lower 60s in some areas. Lower 20s Arctic coast, and near 40 out over the Bering Sea.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
IFR, they're up north, actually from the Bering Strait across the Seward Peninsula, Noatak Valley, Kotzebue, Sullivan Valley areas, and all the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast and beyond. A good swath of VFR in the central interior, all along the Yukon River, and areas down toward the southwest mountains, Auckland, Kilbrook Mountain areas, Togiak Bay to Dillingham, Cape Neuenam, just about all the Bering Sea, with the exception of Adak, IFR, and IFR up the east side, up across Kodiak, Fognak Island, and then eastward to just off the southeast coast, but extending up into the eastern North Gulf Coast, Yakutat, and into the possibly Wrangell Mountains, marginal VFR, areas east and south of the Alaska Range, VFR for the Panhandle though. And then for the afternoon, let's see, shapes up not too bad, marginal VFR kind of slipping on into the southeast coastal areas there, into the inside waters, and marginal VFR, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Bristol Bay, southern Kuskokwim Valley, most of the Kuskokwim Delta, some of the Yukon Delta, interior VFR, Brooks Range northward, marginal VFR, and IFR along the Arctic coast, western north slope, IFR from the Chukchi Sea southward over a good portion of the Bering Sea, but IFR, improving conditions IFR for Adak and possibly Atka. Shimia marginal, Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, IFR, Pribilof, same thing. And Pribilofs through the Bering Strait and areas west there from Amchitka to Shimia, all IFR. And otherwise it remains off the southwest coast, Kuskokwim Delta, right along the coast of the Yukon Delta. IFR, again, the Chukchi Sea, Noatak Valley, right across the Brooks Range, North Slope, Arctic coast. VFR along the Yukon River. And marginal VFR mostly with a little bit of VFR, northern Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, central Copper River Basin, basically marginal across southern Alaska, IFR Shelikof Strait up to Montague Island, and Kodiak Island, marginal for the Panhandle. And for the afternoon on Tuesday, IFR again, Arctic coast, North Slope, south of the mountains though, Brooks Range, mostly VFR there, especially along the Porcupine, Yukon River, right on out to the Delta, Norton Sound, VFR. Marginal VFR there in the central interior. It looks like northern Kuskokwim Valley, right across the Alaska Range there, and then cutting up in toward areas near or just east of Fairbanks in the 40-mile country over Tanana Valley. Some IFR, eastern North Gulf Coast, Yakutat, Cape St. Elias, those areas marginal for the Panhandle to the north, VFR, Prince of Wales Island from about Port Alexander, rough maybe Sitka southward, and a band of IFR over the southwest Bering Sea. For passes tomorrow, Anatuvik, mostly marginal throughout the day, trending toward VFR. Adigan, IFR to start, just kind of an improving trend, becoming VFR in the afternoon for actually both passes. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal early, then VFR. Rainy, same thing, marginal VFR becomes VFR at times, especially in the afternoon. Windy, mostly VFR. Isabel, same forecast, mostly VFR. And Mentasta, marginal becoming VFR. Tanita, marginal VFR, becomes VFR. Portage, kind of a marginal day tomorrow. Could be at times where it's VFR, though. And Chilcoot and White, mostly VFR. Freezing level 6,000 feet, eastern interior 4,000 feet, most of the central interior out to the Seward Peninsula, and about 2,000 out over the Bering Sea. And as far as icing goes, moisture kind of oriented east to west there, stretching out, just approaching the southern and central coast of the Panhandle with some increasing potential for some light to probably not even moderate rime or mixed icing there with that. Better chance Kodiak Island up into Kamishak Bay there in the upslope areas or the east side of the Aleutian Range. Otherwise, Alaska Peninsula, slight chance, as well as up into western Prince William Sound. Jet stream ridging there from the Yukon and across central interior to the Russian Far East. To the south of that, we've got a series of upper-level lows, and that's kind of holding the jet stream south of the forecast area. 9,000 feet. Let's see, we've got southeasterlies, 20 knots, turn east, 30 knots across the northern Bering Sea, just south of St. Lawrence Island. Westerlies at about 35 over the southern Bering there, north of Amchitka and Chimianatu. And otherwise, 25 to 30 knot winds around that low in the Gulf of Alaska. 3,000 feet, even stronger, up to 45 knots there over the northern Gulf, and 25 along the coast of the Panhandle, 25 to 30 knots, Bristol Bay, in along the Yukon Delta coast. And as far as turbulence goes, up to 5,000 feet or 5,000 feet and below. Occasional moderate chop for the areas on the lee side of the Aleutian Range, Kamishap Gap, and those areas. After the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
You guys got everything tied down back there? Yeah. Yep. We're going through the lee of St. Elias, so there might be some turbulence.
Fasten seatbelt sign on.
Well, who am I to tell you what to do?
There are tens of thousands of glaciers in Alaska. Some stunning cliffhangers, others wide glaciers that come down to meet the ocean tides. Some, like this one we flew over in August, are easily visible from low Earth orbit and are mesmerizing from 1,000 feet above, and have trees growing on top of their soil-laden boundaries. Those glaciers, although they represent only a fraction of the world's ice, are contributing much more than their share to sea level rise. Chris Larson and his colleagues have repeatedly measured 220 of them in a small single-engine otter, measuring their height with lasers and their depth with radar, and watching them change from season to season and year to year. But Alaskan glaciers are also different. We're only just figuring out how they all behave. Data from flights like these, part of NASA's Operation Icebridge, can help fill the gaps. Chris and radar specialist Martine Trufer are both from the University of Alaska Fairbanks and both seasoned Alaskan pilots. But they rely on their good friend and legendary bush pilot Paul Kloss and his 35,000 hours in the cockpit to fly the incredibly demanding flight lines the mission requires.
And does it help you guys being pilots too?
I would like to think so, but watching Paul fly and seeing what he does, it's kind of like trying to learn quantum mechanics in kindergarten.
You know, I can fly my airplane around, but just seeing what Paul does in this extremely challenging environment in the mountains while trying to follow a specific flight line at a specific altitude above ground, negotiating winds, topography, maybe occasional low-level clouds that you have to get around, and just managing all that is just several levels above what I could do as a pilot.
Well, I think the first time I came here to this park, I was probably 4 years old with my father. I've been blessed to be able to fly in lots of places in the world, all over the place actually, almost every continent. I guess I'm always looking for some place that might be better than this, but I haven't found it.
Paul's plane is about 60 years old and is the first single-engine otter ever retrofitted with a 1,000 horsepower engine, which makes takeoffs feel effortless and gives Paul the ability to negotiate wild terrain, which he certainly did during the first 2 incredible science flights of this campaign. And with sunny skies and relatively calm air, we covered 3 vastly different pieces of ice. While Paul fueled up the plane, Chris gave us a preview of the day's science and scenery.
So it has one of the greatest coastal reliefs anywhere in the world. So it's between the ocean and the summit of Mount St. Elias, which is 18,008 feet high. It's less than 10 miles. There's a stupendous amount of mountain right off the ocean. It's hard to beat it anywhere in the world. It might be the prettiest for me. It's absolutely stunning. From here in McCarthy, we'll cross one of the bigger precipitation gradients in Alaska too. Here it's about 10 inches of precipitation a year, and we'll go over to an area where it's on the order of 200 inches per year. So it's from one of the driest parts of Alaska to one of the wettest parts of Alaska in about 45 minutes flight time.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
That's awesome. You want to do Tyndall next?
Sure, where you want.
If the winds are calm now, might as well grab it.
First, we came to the rugged landscape of Icy Bay, which not that long ago wasn't a bay at all. It was filled with ice. Tidewater glaciers in this region can make dramatic advances and retreats as they feed on high rates of snowfall and then retreat as they're melted by warm ocean waters. Like the Tyndall Glacier seen here, most of these glaciers have retreated dramatically over the last 100 years. But nearby Yahtzee Glacier, after years of retreat, is currently the most rapidly advancing glacier in Alaska. Overall, though, the Icebridge Alaska surveys, from the Denali region in the north to the Juneau ice field in the southeast, have documented pretty substantial thinning of glacial ice. Areas seen here in orange and red show between about 10 and 15 feet of thinning per year.
1200.
There's a nice waterfall up there from the hanging ice.
We very first started profiling this, Paul, this gravel fan and the one in the valley next to it didn't exist.
I was going to say,
this was
look at all the good landing spots here.
Yeah,
There's no place to land here before.
no, it was deep water.
After covering several of Icy Bay's glaciers, given that it was time for lunch, just like that, we landed in this unforgettable spot. Flying eastward, leaving Icy Bay behind, we came to the mighty Malaspina, one of the Earth's great examples of a Piedmont glacier that spills out like pancake batter onto a broad plain as it approaches the sea. It surges at uneven intervals, creating dramatic patterns on its surface as it distorts the moraines of rock and soil borne along by the glacier. The Malaspina is less dynamic than the Yahtzee and is only melting at about the average rate for Alaska, but that could change quickly.
It has the potential for being one of the bigger geographic evolutions in Alaska. Certainly my son will be able to witness some big geography changes there. There's potential for it being connected with the ocean through some narrow lagoons, estuaries, which would take a little bit of coastal erosion, but it's not too hard to imagine that where the Malaspina Glacier is now could become a large bay.
The data that Martine's radar provides could reveal how vulnerable the Malaspina is to melting by the nearby ocean. Here we see the radar returns from the surface of the glacier, and here is something that Chris's lasers can't see, the rocky bed of the glacier, giving us both clues as to what's happening under the ice, as well as a measurement of its thickness. Finally, we came to the Yakutat ice field, 300 square miles of absolutely doomed ice perched high in the mountains. Researchers even debate how this ice field came to be at all, since in its current configuration, it's hard to imagine how it could capture enough snow to form glacial ice. And so, even if the Arctic weren't warming faster than the rest of the planet, this area would be likely to melt within a century or two. But with many other glaciers, it's easier to see the connection between a warming planet and ice loss. Thanks to data from IceBridge and other surveys, we now have a good estimate of the current rate of loss from Alaskan glaciers, 75 gigatons a year. While airborne observations over Alaskan glaciers have provided a rich record of change in the area, those efforts are now augmented by NASA's newest ice measuring tool, ICESat-2. With 6 laser beams of its own, and orbiting the Earth every 90 minutes, the satellite will carry on the record of Alaskan change. For their part, Chris and his team will continue to do their surveys for at least the next 2 years, helping to validate the ICESat-2 data and make further detailed observations over the stunning glaciers of Alaska.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Looking at sea ice analysis for today, kind of thinning out there on the western Arctic coast, although shore fast along much of the coastline there, and still pretty solid there on the central and east side until you get over to Mackenzie River Delta, or Bay, and it gets a little thinner. Also Norton Sound, about the same as yesterday, and then slowly thinning ice over the northern Bering Sea, St. Matthew or St. Lawrence Island, on up to the Bering Strait. And for the southwest, or for the southeast coast, coastal water forecasts looking like this tomorrow. Small craft advisories, southerlies 25 to 30 knots on the south coast, and southeast 25 to 30 on the north coast. Seas running 10 to 12 feet. And for the central southern inside waters, southeast breeze at 15 knots, seas 3 feet. Lighter winds for Lynn Canal than what you had today, down to 15 knots from the south. And that holds through Tuesday. Lynn Canal south 15, otherwise variable winds at 10 knots or less, with seas pretty slight for the central and southern inside waters. Light winds out along the coast as well. West-northwest 10 knots, 6-foot seas, and the extreme north coast looking southerly at about 15 knots, seas just under 10 feet. Prince William Sound, light northeast breeze at 10 knots. Same thing for Cook Inlet, northeast at 10, seas 2 to 3 feet. And Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, small craft advisories. East winds 25 knots, seas 7 to 10 feet. And easterly winds 20 to 25 knots for the North Gulf Coast. Outlook for Tuesday. Let's see, southeast winds for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Northeast at 20 for the western North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound east at 15. Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, light winds southeast at 10 and variable winds 10 knots or less with slight seas for Cook Inlet. And for the Kodiak Island area, east-southeast 15 knots, 4 to 7 foot seas. And let's see, from Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, southerly winds at 15 knots, seas 7 feet. Light easterlies on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula out of the east at 10 knots, Bristol Bay southeast 15. And variable winds for the Alaska Peninsula at 10 knots for Tuesday, say northeast on the Bering Sea side, south side, southwest at 10 knots, all the way up the east side of Kodiak Island and Shelikof Strait, all southwest at 10 with seas 2 to 7 feet. Fox Islands, light winds tomorrow, southeast 10 knots, seas 3 to 7 feet. Same thing for Adak and Atka, southeast at 10, 4-foot seas, and Amchitka as well. Kiska to Shimia, southwest 15, seas 5 feet. And a little bit of a pickup in the breeze on Tuesday for the Aleutians. Unalaska Island, southwest 15. Nunmak Island, south 20 to 25 knots. Small craft advisories for the central Aleutians, Atka, Adak, and Amchitka. For south to southeast winds, 25 knots. Kiska to Shimia, east at 20. Southwest coast, east-southeast breeze at 15 knots. Southeast at 10 for the Pribilofs. Northeast 15 there for the St. Matthew Island area. And for St. Lawrence Island, looking at northeast winds at 20 knots with 3-foot seas. East 15 for Norton Sound, seas 3 feet. Moving on to Tuesday. And really light winds, call it no wind for Norton Sound, although we put east at 5 there, seas 2 feet or less. And 20 knots for St. Lawrence Island. And Yukon Delta coast, southeast breeze at 15 knots, 2 foot seas. Same thing for St. Matthew Island, southeast at 15. And for the Pribilofs, light southerlies at 10 knots with 3 foot seas. And along the Kuskokwim Delta coast to southern Nunivak Island, southerly breeze at 10 knots. And up along the Beaufort Sea, central and eastern Arctic coastal areas there, east at 20 tomorrow, 15 knots on the west side. Cape Beaufort to Wales, northeast at 10. And then for the day Tuesday, Wales to Cape Thompson, northeast at 10, 15 knots from Cape Thompson to then 20 knots on the western Arctic coast, 15 knots all out of the east along the coastline there, but 15 on the central coast, back up to 20 knots over toward Demarcation Point. And for tonight, dry through much of the interior, maybe some isolated showers south of the Alaska Range, maybe widely scattered for the North Gulf Coast, but showers on the decrease of the Panhandle with weak high pressure rolling through. Front hung up along the southwest coast of Kodiak Island keeps it occasionally damp, periods of rain, and about the same with low pressure and showers for the central eastern Bering Sea. And that holds through tomorrow, although it improves a little bit along the Aleutians Alaska Peninsula. Front spreads some light rain into the Panhandle, kind of showery and mostly cloudy southern Alaska, kind of sunny and dry to the north. And then taking a look at Tuesday, return of possible light snow showers or flurries for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast into the north slope, though, but amounts will be quite light, dry on the west side. Showers advance northward into the central interior with cloudy skies, low cooler temperatures, and periods of light rain along the North Gulf Coast. Showers in the Panhandle along the southwest coast as well to eastern Norton Sound, and the next front pushing rain into the western Aleutians.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.